Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Another weekend gone of baseball. Let's get into it. American League. The Boston Red Sox and the Chicago White Sox end up splitting. Toronto and Oakland. Toronto ends up taking two of three. They won in extras. Baltimore and Tampa. Baltimore ends up sweeping the Tampa Bay Rays. Seattle and Kansas City. Kansas City took two of three. They had a big comeback in game one. And then Houston took two of three in Anaheim from the Angels. Blake, go ahead and go over the National League.
Yeah, in the National League, Cincinnati took 3 of 4 from the Cubs. Washington, surprisingly, 3 of 4 from Atlanta. Colorado and St. Louis split four. Arizona and San Diego split four. That was a pretty good series. And then down in London, Philly and the New York Mets each won one. So that one was split as well.
Yeah, in the Interleague, Minnesota and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh ends up winning two of three. Milwaukee took two of three in Detroit. Yankees Dodgers lived up to the hype. Game one, close game. Game two was a blowout, and the Yankees pull out in game three. But the Dodgers do win the series, two out of three in the Bronx. Cleveland and Miami. Cleveland took two of three, and then the San Francisco Giants took two of three from the Texas Rangers, rounding out our week. We both go 7-4-4. Lots of ties in there. Nobody gains ground. Overall, I'm 157, 112, and 26, while Blake is 163, 108, and 24. I am still 7 games back, climbing, and eventually will be on top. Right, Blake?
A long season to go.
Yeah. Let's jump into this week, though. Starting in the American League. This is a very weird week. We'll get to that in a second. But starting in the American League, it'll be the Yankees taking on the Kansas City Royals. It'll be Carlos Rodon versus Seth Lugo, Marcus Stroman versus Brady Singer, Cody Poteet versus Daniel Lynch, and to be determined versus to be determined. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Yankees on this one. No Juan Soto right now, but they are the better team, the best team in the American League. Um, yeah, I think it's gonna be a good series though. Maybe a split here, but I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Yankees.
Yeah, obviously it's big to miss Ragans in this series for the Yankees. Yeah, the Yankees are hot right now. Like obviously they just lost the series, but they've been playing well, right? Judge is hitting a lot of homers. You had Grisham come up with a clutch homer today. So some of their depth pieces are coming through for them as of late. Um, yeah, they're gonna be getting back Garrett Cole here right away. I think he's making one more rehab start down in AAA, so that'd be a big boost. But I'm gonna go with the Yankees here too.
Yeah, I believe he pitched today actually, so maybe that to be determined will be Garrett Cole.
Yeah, it might be.
Heading into the Chicago White Sox versus Seattle Mariners series, it'll be Eric Fetty versus Logan Gilbert, Garrett Crochet versus Brian Wu, to be determined versus to be determined, and to be determined versus to be determined. I'm gonna go ahead and go with Seattle in this one. White Sox suck. Not much to say there. They did just split with the Red Sox, but before that lost 14 straight. They gotta face the Seattle Mariners, whose pitching should shove it against them. Yeah, not much to go through there. And that's gonna round out the American League. But what do you got in that series?
Yeah, I'll take Seattle. There's not much. I'll just piggyback on what you said. They
Yeah.
snapped their 14 game losing streak, so I guess that was good.
Yeah, like I said, only two matchups in the American League, and let's head into the National League where there's only two matchups also. That means that there's 11 interleague matchups. But yeah, let's get into the National League. It'll be the Pittsburgh Pirates heading into St. Louis to take on the Cardinals. It'll be Paul Skeens versus Miles Mikolas, Bailey Falter versus Sonny Gray, and Mitch Keller versus Lance Lynn. Personally, I do like Pittsburgh's pitching a little bit better, but I feel like that Paul Skeens and Sonny Gray, not matching up on the same day. Um, I kind of think that's a wash. And then if I'm looking at Mitch Keller versus Lance Lynn, so far how those two guys have pitched this year, that's a toss up. So I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Cardinals in this one, mainly because they're at home. I think they could scrape together maybe two wins in this series, and they've been playing pretty good baseball of late.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Pittsburgh here. I should have took Pittsburgh last week against Minnesota. They've been scoring a lot of runs lately. And they've been getting some decent pitching too. So, they kind of imploded a little bit there in extra innings against Minnesota. They could have got a sweep. Gave one away there today, but yeah, I'm gonna go Pittsburgh here.
Next up, with the Miami Marlins heading into New York to take on the Mets, it'll be Jesus Luzardo versus Tyler Meagle, Braxton Garrett versus David Peterson, and Ryan Weathers versus Luis Severino. Both of these teams obviously haven't had a good start to the season. With Luzardo going, he's been better over his last five starts. I'm gonna go ahead and go with Miami in this series, mainly because of how the Mets have been playing of late. They did split with the Phillies in London, but um, yeah, I think Luzardo is gonna be the game changer for me in this one, and then Miami just has to find a way in the other two.
Yeah. This was a coin flip for me, honestly. Like this was a tough series to pick because, like you said, they're both really blah to me. They're not really
Yeah.
exciting teams to watch. Obviously, the Mets got the bigger names and the bigger payroll, but they're pretty similar right now. So I'm gonna go the Mets here, but this series could go either way.
Yeah. Interleague matchups. Let's get into it. There's a lot of them. We're going to start off with the Toronto Blue Jays heading into Milwaukee. It'll be Jose Barrios versus Colin Ray, Yusei Kikuchi versus to be determined, and Chris Bassett versus Tobias Myers. The Toronto Blue Jays barely beat the Oakland A's this past weekend. Two extra inning wins, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then they also got walked off.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so they're just not scoring runs. I mean, they just haven't. They just have not scored runs. So this Milwaukee Brewers team does score runs, and I think even though you have Barrios, Kikuchi, and Bassett going, if Milwaukee scores four a game, can scratch across four, there's
yeah,
probably a good chance they're winning the series.
yeah. The Jays starting pitching the last two, really good. 8 innings and 9 innings. Gosman went CG game two. I'm gonna go the Jays here. I like the pitching. Like their offense, it is what it is, right? I mean, they scored 7 runs and they scored 6 runs in extra innings. It's you just don't know what you're gonna get, right? I know it is local A's are not as good, but um, yeah, they need guys to step up. Barrero's been better as of late. I'm gonna go the Jays here. It's a good test for them. See where they're at.
Yep. Next up, we have the Colorado Rockies heading into Minnesota to take on the Twins. It'll be Dakota Hudson versus Chris Paddock, Cal Quantrill versus Pablo Lopez, and Austin Gomber versus Joe Ryan. Minnesota Twins pitching staff, especially pointing out Pablo Lopez hasn't been up to par. But with that said, they are playing the Rockies. The Rockies got hot for a little while, but this isn't in Coors Field. I feel like whenever you're going to pick the Rockies, it's usually at home. But in this series, I'm gonna go ahead and go with Minnesota. Their pitching is just much better on paper.
Yeah, I'll take Minnesota too. I'm with you there. They really do miss Sonny Gray in that rotation, right? Pablo Lopez is good, but he's a good number two. He's not an ace, right? I don't think he's capable of carrying the bulk of that rotation. Like I said, he's a good complementary piece, good two guy behind that ace. But yeah, the starting pitching is definitely faltered here, but I will take Minnesota.
That might be a hot take based off his track record, but I don't know. Let's jump into the next one. It'll be the Oakland A's heading into San Diego to take on the Padres. Joe Estes versus Dylan Cease in game one, JP Sears versus Randy Vasquez in game two, and Hogan Harris versus Michael King in game three. Personally, for whatever reason, I want to take Oakland, but I am going to take San Diego. JP Sears has been really consistent. But with that said, the Padres did get swept last week by the Angels and then split with the D-backs in a four-game series. Oakland's coming in. This is a series on paper they should take. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the favorite in this one, but wouldn't be shocked if Oakland pulled out a win or two here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with San Diego too. I didn't know who Hogan Harris was until he pitched against the Jays. He's just a soft throwing lefty, paints it up. Throws about 89 to 91. Has to hit his spots, but yeah, the Padres should win this series. They have the better matchups in two of these three games. So yeah, I'll go with the Padres.
Next up, we have the Houston Astros heading into San Francisco to take on the Giants. It'll be Spencer Arrighetti versus Kyle Harrison, Ronel Blanco versus Jordan Hicks, and Framber Valdez versus Logan Webb. This should be a really good series. San Francisco has been playing pretty good baseball of late. With that said, I am going to go ahead and go with Houston. I think we've been saying this for a while now, but eventually they're going to have these series where they string them together and they get back into things. They're really close to the wild card right now. They've already started to chip away, chip away. I think Houston's better on paper offensively. But that last game, Framber Valdez versus Logan Webb, kind of scares me.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens in that one, but I am going to go with Houston in this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go San Francisco. And just piggyback kind of what you're just saying there. That it's basically just gonna be one spot for, or it's gonna be one spot available for a wild card at least. Like that's what it's looking like right now. I mean, KC's 4.5 games up from the second to the third wild card, like barring a collapse there. Like it's gonna be a lot of teams just fighting for that one spot, right? It'll be really interesting to see how that plays out closer that we get to the deadline. I'm gonna go San Francisco. They're coming off 2 or 3 against the defending World Series champs. I like Hicks. I like Webb in this series. Cal Harrison's it's been serviceable, but yeah, I will go with San Fran here.
Next up, we have the Texas Rangers taking on the Dodgers. On paper, this looks like it would be a good matchup, but the Rangers have been scuffling a bit. It'll be Dane Dunning versus James Paxton, Jose Urena versus Walker Buehler, and to be determined versus to be determined. The Dodgers weren't playing good baseball for about a 10-game stretch. They're coming off of a big series win in the Bronx against the Yankees. The Rangers have been scuffling. I don't think there's much more to say about that. I'm going to go ahead and go with the Dodgers at home.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the Dodgers too. It was the Teoscar Hernandez show in the Bronx. Just hitting a lot of clutch homers for them all series long. Loves playing in that ballpark, getting back to his days with the Jays. But I'm going to go the Dodgers here. Like you said, Texas just there's just been up and down. It's been a little bit of a roller coaster for them. A little bit of a World Series hangover, I guess you want to call it.
Yep. Next up, we have the Angels heading into Arizona to take on the D-backs. It'll be Jose Soriano versus Jordan Montgomery, Griffin Canning versus Slade Cecconi, and to be determined versus to be determined. Truthfully, I could see the Angels winning this series, to be honest with you. They have been playing pretty decent baseball lately on the pitching side of things. They swept the Padres last week. They did end up only winning 1 of 3 against the Astros, but they weren't terrible games. But with that said, um, I am going to go ahead and go with the D-backs. They have been playing better ball of late. They split with the Padres this past weekend. Um, the biggest thing that I'm looking at is the Jordan Montgomery and Jose Soriano matchup. Montgomery hasn't been pitching very well while Soriano has. So that's the only reason why I would say the Angels have a chance here. But outside of that, I am going to go, with the D-backs.
Yeah, Montgomery exited to some booze his last start in Arizona, so that was kind of interesting to see. Yeah, he's definitely got to definitely be better. It just goes to show, like you look at Montgomery and Blake Snell both didn't have a spring training, and they both struggled to start this season. Since they signed those deals kind of later on, but yeah, I'm gonna go Arizona here. Nothing against your Halos, they have been playing better as of late, but I think that Arizona will take this one.
Yep. Next up, we have the Cleveland Guardians taking on the Cincinnati Reds. It's going to be round 2 for these guys. It is a 2-game set. It'll be Tristan McKenzie versus Hunter Green, and then Tanner Bybee versus Nick Lodolo. That one definitely will be one to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go ahead and go with Cincinnati in this series. Realistically, I do think they'll split.
Mm-hmm.
But Cincinnati has been playing better ball of late. I like Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green better than I would say better than Bybee and McKenzie, but I don't know. I just feel like they are at home. That played into it for me too. I could have went Cleveland here. Um, I just think that the pitching matchups line up really well, and Cincinnati's at home. You'd think they'd at least win one here. I'm really going for the split, to be honest
Right.
with you.
I think this series is going to be a sweep either way. Like I think one team's going to win two. I don't think it'll be a split. I think I'm going to take Cincinnati here, but I think whoever does win the first one is going to sweep the series. That's just kind of how I feel about that. But Cincinnati been playing better as of late. It'll be interesting to see. Yeah, like that Bybee versus Lodolo. That'd be a really good matchup to see.
Next up, we have the Phillies heading home from London to take on the Red Sox in Boston. It'll be Zach Wheeler versus Cutter Crawford, Christopher Sanchez versus Nick Pivetta, and Aaron Nola versus Tanner Houck. And I'm going to go ahead and go with the Phillies in this one. There's some familiarity with the Phillies roster in Boston. You got Kyle Schwarber there. Um, I think he could be a difference maker in this series. With that said, the Boston Red Sox just split with the Chicago White Sox. There's not
Yeah.
much to be optimistic about when the best National League team is coming into your ballpark and they've been rolling over everybody. So I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Phillies in this one.
Yeah, Castellanos has been hot lately too, hitting a lot of home runs. Pitching really evenly both sides, right? I mean, Cutter Crawford's been good. Tanner Houck's been really good too. And obviously you got your 1-2 starters going in this for Philly. So based on that, edge goes to Philly for me.
Yep. Next up, we have the Washington Nationals versus the Detroit Tigers. It'll be Patrick Corbin versus Jack Flaherty, to be determined versus to be determined, and Jake Irvin versus Reese Olson. I was on the Nats wave for a little while, but the last couple series they've been letting us down. With that said, Detroit's also starting to play some better ball. Um, but both these teams are kind of it's a flip a coin series in my opinion. Corbin scares me in game one. Reese Olson's been a dog on the mound this year, so I'm gonna go ahead and go with Detroit. They also are the home team here, so I think that's gonna play as well.
Yeah, Corbin does scare me in game one as well. I'm going to take Washington. They just won 3 of 4 from Atlanta, which I think nobody would have predicted. Um, so
Yeah.
kind of with a little bit of house money here. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but I think Washington could take 2 or 3 here.
Didn't they lose the White Sox and they won 3 or 4 to the
Yeah, like it's
3 or 4
it's weird.
Atlanta?
Weird.
Yep, they've been screwing us left and right. Next up, we have the Atlanta Braves taking on the Baltimore Orioles. It'll be to be determined versus to be determined. Spencer Schwallenbach versus Cole Irvin and Reynaldo Lopez versus Kyle Bradish. I'm going to go ahead and go with Baltimore in this series. It should match up pretty well. These are two really good teams. With that said, Atlanta, like you said, just lost 3 or 4 to Washington. They haven't been playing very well since they lost Ronald Acuna. Even their manager's coming out saying, hopefully it clicks soon. So with that said, Baltimore's playing a little bit better baseball as of late. So I'm going to go with the O's.
Yeah, they just swept Tampa in the Trop. So I'm gonna go Atlanta here. Um, I think they're gonna be really motivated. Got embarrassed against na the Nationals. It is in Baltimore, but is this series of the week, you think? This has got to be, no? One of the best?
Um,
Is there any other one that catches your eye?
Texas, LA kind of
Yeah,
intrigues me.
yeah,
Yankees, KC,
yeah,
Cleveland, Cincinnati. I think that intrigues me just
yeah.
because of LA De La Cruz in itself. But yeah,
Hmm.
I would say, yeah, this Atlanta, Baltimore, these are two teams that you would expect to possibly make the ALCS next, or AL and NLCS, I should say, this year. So, um, yeah, I would say, yeah, you're probably right. This is the best series of the week.
I'm gonna go Atlanta though. Yeah.
Alrighty. And lastly, we have the Cubs heading into Tampa to take on the Rays. It'll be Jameson Taillon versus Zach Eflin, Javier Assad versus Aaron Savali, and Justin Steele versus Taj Bradley. Truthfully, I just like the pitching better for the Cubs in this one. Like you said, Tampa just got swept this past weekend. The Cubs they've been a kind of a wild card, no pun intended. Um, they've just been good in some series, and then other series they just look not good, and I don't know. But I do think obviously they have the star power more so than Tampa. Bellinger and Swanson. Um, so I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Cubs. Also, they have Justin Steele on the mound, game three, and I think that plays.
Yeah. Tampa, their magic might be running out here. We'll see. They found a way to get it done all these years, and then this year it just seems different. It's not the same pesky Rays team that we've been accustomed of seeing the past decade or so. So we'll see kind of what happens as the season goes on, but I'm gonna take the Cubs here.
Alrighty. That's going to do it for this one. In review, I have the Yankees, Seattle, St. Louis, Miami, Milwaukee, Minnesota, San Diego, Houston, LA, Arizona, Cincinnati, Philly, Detroit, Baltimore, and Chicago. While Blake has New York, Seattle, Pittsburgh, New York, Toronto, Minnesota, San Diego, San Francisco, LA, Arizona, Cincinnati, Philly, Washington, Atlanta, and Chicago. That's going to do it for this one. Thank you guys for listening. As always, if you like this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. This is a new channel, so all the love is appreciated. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one, and we'll see you on the next one. Later.